In this video, I'll be building the Battle of Kashyyyk in LEGO, but I will be limiting myself to just 24 hours, and that time starts now. The Battle of Kashyyyk is one of the most well-known and represented battles in Star Wars media, including the movies, shows, and games. During the final days of the Clone Wars, a ferocious battle between the defending natives, the Wookiees, who were assisted by Republic forces, orchestrating the defense of the capital, Kashyyyk, which was under attack from Separatist forces attempting to secure a beachhead. To start out with this challenge, I went and grabbed my gray base plates. This is going to be a 2x3 project. Next followed the black border. This is pretty standard when building a large-scale mock. Also a side benefit, this is pretty quick. Even though I only have 24 hours, I still need to be careful when planning, because messing up could cost me a lot of time, which is very valuable. So here I laid out a bit where the water is going to be, the paths, and some of the vegetation. This will give me a basic guide to know what I'm doing. Since the last video, I ended up investing a lot in 16x16 plates. These save you so much time when doing filler. For the water, I wanted to give a tropical look and feel, so I layered in these vibrant colors to give it a beautiful gradient. I even added some small waves. With the water now complete, let's move on to the sand. First, I'm going to do the wet sand. That's going to be in dark tan tiles to represent the wet look. Then it's slowly going to transition into more studs. As I wrap up the dark tan, I want to start introducing light tan. This will be the main color for the sand. Next, I want to transition the beach into reddish brown. As I wrap up this section, I've been building for 4 hours and 20 minutes. I can tell this challenge is already going to be very difficult, looking at how much progress I still need to make. Kashyyyk is known for its heavy vegetation, so first I'm going to start by laying down a base layer of green. My goal is to give the foliage a varying level of thickness. This is why I'm going to be incorporating bright green at the front, and as it gets deeper I'm going to transition into normal green. My goal with incorporating green will be to add more shadows and depth to the thicker parts of the plants. Essentially, as the plants get thicker, the color gets darker. Next, I wanted to make a location where the Republic could store some fortifications. Maybe even some supplies or some weaponry. So I hopped into a game on Kashyyyk in Star Wars Battlefront 2 to look for some inspiration. I think something like this area could work. I think I'm going to build something like this, with these stone walls and platforms. This looks really nice. Alright, we've had enough fun. Now time to head back to building. After looking in Battlefront 2, I finally have an idea what I'm going to build over here. My goal is to make this area look as battle-torn and corroded as possible. To do this is going to require a bunch of small parts, so I grabbed every single gray piece I had and I got to work. I started by outlining the area where the concrete slab will be placed. As I wrapped up the outline, I wanted to start on the floor. I'm going to be building the floor in snot. This will allow me to add a ton of detail. However, adding all this detail really slowed me down. Even though it took me around 2 hours to recreate this slab from in-game, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Let's move on and get the first 3 base plates wrapped up. Next, I'm moving on to the main terrain and paths. This will all be done in medium nougat. I ended up switching out the trans black for trans green. I think this looks a lot nicer. After swapping out the colors in the puddle, I moved on to the main path. This area was a lot of boring repetition, but it just needs to get done. I also need to mix in a good stud to tile ratio to allow for proper fig posing, as this is the main area for the battle. With 12 hours remaining in this challenge, I decided to finally move on to the second half of this project. My goal is to get these last base plates up to speed as quickly as possible so I can move on to vegetation and the trees. I can also now start laying out the footprint of the Juggernaut. This set is so massive and I want to make sure it fits on the path. With that out of the way, I can finally start to transition the terrain to the new base plates. With all the minor details accounted for, I can finally continue with the path. The next 2 hours and 30 minutes consisted of me laying down thousands of medium nougat tiles and plates. Even though this process is tedious, it's essential to creating the look I want for this mock. After finishing the path, I took a well-deserved break, and I figured I'd start on the trees. I've never built trees before, so this is quite a learning curve. I'm honestly so excited with how these turned out. I think this will add a lot to the battle. Feeling rejuvenated, I started laying down the green plates. Just like on the prior base plates, these will serve as the foundation for the vegetation. Even though there's 8 hours left in this challenge, I still have a ton to do. With the clock running down, I need to manage my time properly. I don't want to risk running out of time. One of the things I was really excited to build was the snail tank model. I have always been a big fan of this model, and I really wanted to incorporate it into this battle. I wanted to get this model done before I started on the vegetation, as I wasn't sure how much time it was going to take up. This thing is amazing. Now finally, I can get to the most important part of Kashyyyk, the foliage. I started by grabbing every single plant piece I had. I have a feeling I'm going to need all of them. Here I built a small test sample to show you guys what the process is going to look like. As discussed before, I'm going to have the bright green plants in front, backed up by the darker green plants. To make the foliage look more like a jungle, I added on several more layers on top of the first layer. This consists of any plant that is taller than the first layer. This will give a nice stacked look and make it really thick. I have never done jungle foliage before, so this was a very fun process. I started out by laying the first layer. This included some small plants with bigger leaves. As everything in this project has now been completed besides the plants, I can focus the last 4 hours completely on plant work. You may have noticed some yellow bricks. This is where I plan to place the trees. Placing these trees when the foliage is done will be very difficult, so I think I'm going to go ahead and place them now. While these trees may look nice, I gotta be very careful as they're pretty fragile. And just like that, the first 2 trees are in place. These trees look amazing. I'm happy I spent a good amount of time working on these. It definitely paid off. With the trees now securely positioned, I can work in the foliage around the base of the trees. As I continued the foliage, it occurred to me I probably should leave some paths for troopers to walk through. And with the 3rd tree in place, this section of the mock is really coming together. With the first section now completely covered in plants, I can move on to the last bit. Behind these trees I want to leave some room for public troopers to maybe place some fortifications. Not only is my time running out, but so are my parts. This is a lot of pressure.